Hello and welcome to the Shack News Chattycast, the podcast that's going international. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Watts.
And I'm your other host, Brian Carr, recovering from dental surgery and letting you know that today's Chattycast is brought to you. Brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/chattycast. That's CHATTYCAST.
That's right. So every week we pick a big topic, post about it on the Shack News Chatty, and then we talk about it with your comments fueling the discussion, hence Chattycast. Today's guest, CEO of the game studio that won the most badass name 3 years running. It's I'm gonna fumble this, I'm sure. Yuri from Shark Punch. I'm not gonna try your last name. Could you please introduce
your last name altogether? We just went over.
Brian had it. Brian had it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I get it twice, but I did have it.
So it's Kupiainen.
Kupiainen.
Yes.
Yuri Kupiainen. How about that?
What you said.
Yep.
Exactly. Shark Punch is from. The name is just Shark Punch, right? Not like Shark Punch Studios or.
Yeah, it's just Shark Punch. I mean,
Shark Punch is a Finnish developer. You have developed a platform for discovering indie games, which is going to be our big topic this week, talking about how we discover indie games, the problems inherent in discovering indie games when there are literally hundreds of them released every year.
Every day.
So, yeah, every day. So we're going to be talking about that soon. But before we get to any of that, we're going to start off with what we've been playing. And Yuri, as our guest, how about you go first? What have you been occupying your time with other than being the CEO of a startup company?
Well, funny thing about gaming startups is that you don't really have a lot of time to play anything when you do that. I've been kind of trying to play Fallout. Like I've been trying to convince myself that I should give Fallout more time, but it's too shooty. New Fallout just go around shooting people. Like you have all these dialogue options, and in the end you need to shoot the guy in the face anyway. So every night I go home, like I'm gonna play Fallout, and then I open up my laptop and either continue working or I play City Skylines because Cities is nice. You're just building stuff for little people. It's very relaxing. Kind of enjoy that.
Yeah, our CEO actually is a huge fan of City Skylines, and it's gotten some votes in our Game of the Year discussions. Have you modded your cities at all? Like I know that the mod scene was huge with City Skylines.
Yeah, and I mean, the way they do it is really cool because like when you open up the game, you see like the latest kind of popular mods like right in there in the main menu. So it looks really tempting, but I'm kind of of the school of thought that you should first kind of finish the the core game as it was intended by the devs, and then you start modding the fuck out of it. So I'm kind of like trying to build a really big city without any mods, and then start again with all the craziest mods. But it looks really cool. Every day there's new awesome stuff there.
Yeah, and you said you thought Fallout was too shooty because you just have to end up shooting people in the face.
Well, isn't
come on? Were you a fan of the old Fallout games? Were you a fan of Fallout 3?
Yeah.
Like, what point did it become too shooty for you?
I mean, of course, they're always been like super violent. I mean, I know that. But it feels like in the old ones, and maybe at least in New Vegas, like you always had an option. If you had like a character that has like high charisma or luck or intelligence, you would have these funny different ways of resolving situations. But now it feels like like in the end, like you have all those different options, but in the end you still end up shooting the guy. So I don't know.
There was one confrontation that I don't want to say which it was in case you haven't gotten there yet, but I felt like I could talk my way out of it. It was a plot related thing, and if I felt like I could talk my way out of it, and I kept dying, so I tried it several different times, and just no matter what I did, like the dialogue always led to like, I'm a shoot you now, and I was like, okay, I guess this is just how this goes.
I mean, the only time for me where like I've actually like managed to like on like a plot mission to get a dialogue option that allows me to resolve the thing peacefully. After that, you get a countdown, like, oh, by the way, in 5 seconds we're gonna start shooting anyway. it's like, come on,
Yeah, your dialogue does not matter.
Yeah. But yeah, at least you have 5 seconds to run away, but it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, but still, everybody at the office really loves Fallout, so I think I'm gonna keep giving it time to, and eventually probably love it as well. I mean,
have you sort of wandered the wastes at all? Like, found any craziness?
Yeah, and I think with this one they've had a lot of time. Like the level designers have had a lot of time to just kind of they created these like kind of dioramas. There's a couple of dead bodies, and you can tell they've been playing chess or whatever. It's the whole place is covered in that, and I really enjoy that. kind of like, you know, BioShock had a lot of like storytelling that where they weren't really actively telling you anything, but it's all there in the scenery, and I dig that.
Yeah, I think Bethesda usually excels at that, and this one like you said, they had so much time that they developed a lot of those.
But I mean, still, you know, I hope there's gonna be like the New Vegas of Fallout 4, because I loved New Vegas. It felt a lot more like, you know, how Fallout should be to me.
Cool. So, Brian, what have you been occupying your time with lately?
Well, like I said, recovery is a big thing. So we're in exams over here, so I don't really have a lot of time to play video games, but I have managed to play some stuff. I've been playing Pokemon Picross, based on your recommendation. That is a Picross game with Pokemon in it.
What has Pokemons in it? Yeah.
I don't know how to expand on that in any meaningful way, so I'll continue. The other thing, I downloaded the Cloud DLC for Smash Brothers. And I gotta say, so first off, if you haven't listened to the show before, and in fact, I don't even know if I mentioned this on the show before, I have never been a fan of Cloud Strife. I thought he was one of the worst Final Fantasy heroes ever. In this game, he is fantastic. Like, he is really good. He's maybe one of my favorite characters now.
Is he your favorite character? One of your favorite characters because of the way he plays, the way he controls, or is he? Do they actually make him seem cool?
He seems cool because he is fun to use, I guess, for lack of a better term. They worked in a lot of the Final Fantasy stuff in a way that makes sense. He's really fast. He's got some really cool moves. I feel like I got used to him in a way that I just haven't with some of the other characters. So definitely a good addition. Questionable in terms of his relevancy to Nintendo as a whole, but it seems like they're trying to build up more partnership between them and Square again. So. And also,
Smash Brothers has just become just the who's who of like
anything goes. It's a free for all.
Every major franchise that exists.
But yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, I haven't had a whole lot of time to play much of anything, and I'm sure I'm creating something.
Have you played enough of Smash to the thing that when I was watching that stream that caught my interest was the summons in the Midgar stage? I don't know if that's exclusive to the Midgar stage or what.
Yes.
The summons seemed like awesome. There were a ton of them.
My understanding,
have you gotten a chance to play with any of those?
I haven't played on that stage a lot, but my understanding is that basically they're just like stage events that happen, like Ifrit will show up or something and just like wreck shop. And that's really cool, and that fits into the whole sort of cinematic kind of devastation of Final Fantasy that we've had since Final Fantasy VII. So it's a very would he have been the character I chose to put in the game? No, but I'm very happy with how they implemented him, and definitely my favorite piece of DLC so far. Yeah,
that was we're not. I don't have this on the list for covering in Newsy Bits, but that was the big finale of Smash Brothers was Cloud is available right now, and also we're adding Bayonetta and yet another Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I don't care about the Fire Emblem guy, but Bayonetta looks rad. I'm really excited for
Bayonetta. We always need more Fire Emblem. Have you played any Smash Brothers?
No, so I think our CTO is a big fan. I think you know we play a lot of Towerfall and what's it called, the Gang Beasts at the office. We don't have any like Nintendo, any Nintendo equipment.
Yeah, when I went to our own office, because I don't usually actually go to the Shack News offices behind the curtain here, because it's in New Jersey and I'm not. But yeah, the guys who were actually at the office are very big Smash aficionados, and they were challenging each other and such, and they were like, "Steve, you want to get in on this?" And I was watching them play, and I was like, "No."
Nope.
Yeah. No, I think it's also I've never played enough of that game to like be able to compete with anybody who actually loves it at this point. Yeah. Like it's too late. It's like starting to play Counter-Strike now. I mean, like
it's one of those games that if you're playing with other people who are like equally like not that great, you can just press buttons and like cool stuff will happen.
Yeah.
But if you want to play with somebody who knows what they're doing, you're gonna get destroyed.
I think that's why I kind of go for Towerfall. Because it's got that like beautiful rubber banding, It doesn't matter how good or bad you are, you might still win or be the last. I mean,
it's the blue shell. So I've pretty much been playing, just exclusively playing, pretty much Assassin's Creed Syndicate, except for Hearthstone, but that goes without saying. I'm not even going to talk about it. But Assassin's Creed Syndicate, I hate Jacob like slightly less because as I've gotten further in the game. I think I've talked on previous shows about how Jacob just seems like a wasted character. Like we need a bland white guy to be our lead instead of this more interesting female character. But as I've gotten further in sort of worked into their upgrade system, and they have sort of two different upgrade trees, and you're upgrading them separately. I've just decided, like, oh, all right, well, he's supposed to be the big dumb lummox who's like loud and violent, and I'm just going to lean into that. And so all of the upgrades I'm buying for him sort of go down that path, and I don't use him often. Like I tend to stick with Eevee and try to be stealthy as much as possible. But when they make me use him, I'm like, all right, well, because I'm leaning into this character build, the way I'm going to approach this mission is just loud and dumb, and I'm just going to wreck shop and not care how much noise I make. You know, like just playing Assassin's Creed like you're not a stealthy assassin anymore. And they sort of like organize his missions, like the ones that are exclusively built for him. They sort of organize them around that, where it rewards you for being kind of loud and dumb. Like I did one last night where they're like, blow up two of these things at the same time with explosives, because that's what assassins do. You know. So differentiating them a little bit more, I like him a little bit better, because when he was just like not a great brawler before I had upgraded him like that, when he was just not a great brawler but also not great at stealth, and all of his story bits were just like him doing something stupid and loud, and his sister, his much smarter sister, like rolling her eyes, you know,
shitty assassin.
Like, yeah, like there's actual cutscenes in the game where she'll be like, hey, go quietly take care of this while I do something else, and then he comes back and he's like, hey, we gotta go. Like like there has been that people are after us now. I was not quiet. So they fully recognize that, like, that's what the character is, and I'm just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go with that and play with him that way. So I hate him less. As summary, I started out like, oh, this guy. I just don't want to be this guy.
So, I need to get around to starting that. I haven't, and I have not yet started it.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good. I mean, it's not especially different from Assassin's Creed in general, but London is just an interesting setting, and you get to hang out with, like, Charles Dickens, Charles Darwin, and other famous people who aren't named Charles. So, like, it's silly. It's incredibly silly to, like, meet Charles Darwin and have him be like, hey, go take care of this for me, you know? But they're not even trying to make it not silly anymore. Like, they fully acknowledge, like, it feels like they know, like they're winking at you, like, hey, we got this guy, Charles Darwin, you know. There's a mission where there's this syrup, like, you know, in the old days they had, like, medical tonics and stuff, and so the bad guys are selling this thing called syrup, which is making people basically like brain dead and dumb. And so there's a mission that Charles Darwin initiates called, like, On the Origins of the Syrup or something like that, which I was like, okay, yeah, you're like, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't be mad at them when they're leaning into that hard. So we can move on to our big topic here. So our big topic this week is indie game discovery. We are awash with video games. Steam alone adds an average of 55 new games per week, many of them smaller indie titles. You have to imagine only a handful of those are the big budget, you know, things that you actually hear about on release lists. No one could possibly be expected to keep up with that glut of games. So what is there to do, and how does one find games that would interest them, or simply the ones that are just good in general? So there's sort of a two-pronged problem there. Like, even if you find games that fit your genre, they might not be good, or vice versa. So we're talking with, like I said, Yuri, about indie game discovery, because, Yuri, you developed a platform to resolve this very specific problem. So I kind of want to start by talking about, like, what the problems are with indie game discovery that you were trying to address. Like, what did you see as the starting point of, like, here are the problems that we needed to tackle?
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, like, the background, of course, is that we are originally, Shark Punch is an indie game developer. So that's how we got started. We made a game, you know, that's about, you know, bank robberies in the 70s, tactical, top-down, kind of a little bit of like a niche game, you know. And I think when we were making that game, we kind of realized that there's a pretty, you know, large group of people who just love it. Like, when they hear about the concept, they go like, "Holy shit! Like, I need to play that." And there's a lot bigger group of people who just will never care about it, no matter what we do. So I guess, like, that was kind of the basic thing. I would just realize that gaming is so massive that it doesn't make sense to just think of terms like, oh, this is a good game, this is a bad game. It's like, no, like this is a good game for this limited set of people, but because you have over 1 billion people playing games, that limited set of people could still be easily 1 million people who would love your game if they just hear about it. So I guess we just looked at that and realized that like there's 50 new games released on Steam every week, but still, every single one of those could be successful if they're decently made and they are successful at finding their like kind of niche audience. I mean, this is a little bit hand wavy right now, but that was kind of the basic realization that gaming is so massive that there is enough space for all of us.
So it sounds like the sort of the idea, I guess the spark was sort of like targeting things better towards like specific audiences.
Yeah, because like we started with Masterplan, our game. We started talking about it at a really early stage, and I think that really helped us because like we realized that the people who care about it are out there, but we just didn't have any meaningful ways to find them. Like we could go on Greenlight, go on Early Access, and find some of them. Every time we would tweet a new screenshot, we would find some of the people who would care about it, but it was very like kind of non-deterministic and we were talking about that, and we kind of realized that most of game discovery is social. It's your buddy telling you about a game, or it's some dude on Facebook, or it's some dude on a podcast talking about this crazy game he found. So like that's most of real life game discovery is actually like someone or someone you follow talking about the game. And then we looked at like what's Steam doing for game discovery, and they're fully ignoring that. They look at they match tags, right? They do like text analysis, and like that's kind of good for finding related games that I'm already aware of because they're obviously similar. But that stuff isn't gonna like based on the fact that I like City Skylines. I might actually I really enjoy Alpha Bear on mobile. But like the existing kind of like recommendation systems, that they could never make that connection because like if you just look at those games side by side, there's no like obvious overlap as such.
Yeah.
So I guess
the way recommendation systems work, I think you bring up a good point. Like the way they work is either the games are not very related when you need them to be, because it's like, oh, I enjoy this, I would also enjoy this. Or another thing that I think I saw when I was reading up on the Playfield site is a lot of recommendations are done based on just like sales data, which they can have like absolutely nothing to do with each other. It's like the opposite problem. Like, oh, this game is nothing like this game, but it sold a lot, and so you're recommending that I play it.
So I think that's kind of the tool. Like, here's a game that's generally really popular, so there's a pretty good chance that you'll enjoy it. Or it's like, hey, you played Fallout 3, so we think you'll also like Fallout 4. Well, it's like, well, no shit, that's not a recommendation. This is like, like a 5-year-old could figure that out. So like we want to look at more at stuff like like what are the games that people on Twitter or Reddit or Twitch are talking about. Here's the people you follow on Twitter. Who do they follow, and what games are those guys talking about right now? Like kind of the whole like social aspect of that, because that kind of can surface a lot of games that have no obvious connection that will still just click right away for me. That's the theory anyway.
The problem with indie discovery, I think, is that like I said, there's so many releasing, and like you said, there's some that are just very niche markets that it's like, oh man, so there's going to be a small crowd of people that like absolutely love this game, and there's probably indie games out there that I would love, if I ever played them, but I've never heard of them.
Right.
How do you solve that problem of games that are just not getting very much traction to start with?
Right. Well, I mean, so one thing that we really advocate is like building up your audience and kind of figuring out what's unique about your game before you actually release. So I'm a big fan of doing Greenlight and Early Access and all that, because that gives you a chance to like get a better understanding of like who are the people who care about my idea, and it also gives you that kind of core group of people who will talk about it to their friends and anybody who's willing to listen. So I think part of like from the developer's point of view, part of being discovered is to like, with everything you do, like do it with the aim of figuring out like what's unique about my care, what's the thing people care about, and who are those people, and pulling them in. Because we with Masterplan, like we I think we invested pretty heavily in that. Like we were in early access for like 9 months, and we would reply to every single message. Like every piece of feedback, we would go in there and have like a one-to-one dialogue with the person who had some feedback to understand like what's the thing. So then when we're ready to launch, like we kind of know that, hey, here are the cool things about our game, and here's the right audience that we should be, telling about the game. But of course, it's also about timing. Like, if there's a lot of like indie guys who, indie developers who don't really look at, they just focus on their game, and their game might be awesome, and then they release it on the same day as, Fallout 4.
Yeah.
And if you look at the sales curve of an indie game, like that first week is, what's going to kind of define what's going to happen.
Even if you're, say, Tomb Raider releasing on the day of Fallout 4 is maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like it happens to massive titles. So like if your like total audience size is 100,000 people, like then you're fucked if you like time it badly. So I think yeah.
I think that's such an interesting tack that I wasn't really planning on asking about, but that's an interesting discussion that I sort of want to pursue further. A lot of the playfield stuff that I was reading, at least publicly, is very user-facing. It's telling people how the system works, sort of from their perspective, as far as the social hooks and things go. But you were talking just now about the ways that developers can approach this proactively even before release. Can you expand a little bit on what kind of research they should be doing, and how do you tackle that process when it's you?
Right. Well, so I think that was one of the things that kind of annoyed us when we had our game on Steam Early Access. Like we can see that we have 30,000-40,000 people who have wishlisted our game, and we know absolutely nothing about them. So Steam is telling me like, hey, by the way, here's 40,000 people who are interested in buying your game. We're not going to tell you who they are. We're not going to allow you to reach out to them. We will tell you nothing except that they are there's people who say they would love to play your game. So I think that's one of the things that we are trying to do, and again it's in beta, so it's not there yet, but we are really trying to give developers more kind of demographic information about their fans. So kind of my kind of dream is that if I'm a developer, I started out on my indie game, I could start sharing stuff about it, on Twitter and on Playfield and wherever, and every time you would have someone follow your game on Playfield, we could give you a better kind of data-driven image of like, well, what are the things people care about? Like, what kind of content did they react really well to? And even just demographic stuff like, where do they live, how old are they, and all that stuff. Because Steam doesn't really give you that. Sorry.
So demographic info as far as age, gender, like the general demographics we think of, but also maybe demographic info of like, the 40,000 people that are interested in your game. Most of them also, have spent a lot of hours in this game.
Yeah, here's the other games that they're interested in. Here's hopefully the other games that maybe haven't been even released yet that these guys are looking at. Here's the kind of top people who influence this audience, right? Because that would, for me, if I could actually look at the data and go like, oh, holy shit, like, 50% of the people who are interested in my game, they follow, Shack News on Twitter. Well, for me, that's a pretty strong signal that I should be focusing on, you guys. So, so basically we believe in data, but, also like, it takes a long time to kind of build that up to get enough data and like make the kind of right connections and kind of the right conclusions based on that. So this is a multi-year project, but it's kind of something we'd like to do.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool hearing about where the platform is going. How have you seen the response to it so far, like in its current state?
So we've actually gone through. So the kind of quick history is that we launched this like alpha version beginning of last March. So what is like 9 months ago, and with that we were just testing this thing where we would just automatically pull in everything from Twitter and then kind of automatically decide whether it's about a game or not. And I think that was a really cool discovery channel because a lot of developers they post all kinds of stuff about their game to Twitter, and it's not promotional material. It's very real. It's like short videos of like funny bugs and stuff like that. And I think gamers really enjoy that. It's like seeing the kind of backstage photos of your favorite band and stuff like that. So I think that was very successful. Now we like a month ago we launched some of the e-commerce stuff, which for us like we kind of need to prove that stuff works, but it's not very interesting. Like it just needs to be there, it needs to function, but besides that it's not interesting. So now we're kind of like trying to resurface like all the cool stuff, like all the Twitter things, and hooking up to Twitch and kind of using Twitch data to promote games that are kind of trending on Twitch and stuff like that. But I mean, people dig it. But I mean, I also know that if you go to Playfield today and you don't want to like dig around too much, then it's just going to look like another storefront, and that's kind of a shame.
So you've got like, it sounds like your immediate goals as far as like the pipeline of when you're going to be adding features and in which order. It sounds like next up is you really want to get the social stuff up to where you want it to be.
Well, because I think that's kind of the original reason why we started doing this, and I think that's also something that like no one's really providing that. Like I'm really curious to see, like, I mean, what kind of once we look at Twitter, Twitch, and Reddit, and see what kind of stuff is trending amongst people that you follow on these platforms, I think, I mean, we're going to be able to, give you some pretty interesting recommendations. I don't know if they're going to be awesome or not, but I mean, they're definitely going to be different from what Steam is going to give you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Brian, I feel like I've been dominating the conversation.
No,
sorry if I've been cutting off your questions.
Anytime we talk about like platforms to discover indie games and that sort of thing, the one thing that always jumps to my mind is how people can game the system, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is especially prevalent on Steam with Greenlight and that sort of thing. Is that something you guys thought about, or what are your thoughts on that? And like, how does Playfield handle that?
Yeah, so I mean, we already have people setting up game pages and then adding like 1,000 different tags. Mm-hmm. But that that's kind of the obvious stuff, right? I mean, that's kind of is the spot. But of course, for us, because the whole point is to kind of plug into other platforms, and like there's going to be ways to game that. Someone could create 1,000 bots on Twitter, and we probably wouldn't catch that immediately. So I mean, of course, I guess as soon as you integrate with other platforms, you have less visibility into what's happening, so it might take a longer time to figure out how it's being gamed. So that's going to be a big challenge, definitely.
And ideally, as being a social platform, you would actually, I mean, if I'm a user of the site, ideally, I mean, I wouldn't think that I would be making friends with bots or something like that. So, like, hopefully the social aspect, naturally takes care of some of that.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, we'll need to keep tweaking our algorithms like forever. Like, I mean, because we are like when we launched the e-commerce feature, so you could actually spend money. Like, Jesus Christ, like we saw so many like people trying to like buy shit with credit cards that weren't theirs. And like I would love to see the same data for Steam or Humble or whatever, one of these guys, because I think people don't realize how massive that is.
Yeah, that kind of brings up the issue of just straight up fraud. I mean, like this is something that might delve into complex territory that isn't exactly the purview of this particular topic, but Steam recently had that announcement that a certain amount of fraud is going on their platform, and that was pretty big news. So as obviously a much smaller operation than Valve, how do you sort of steel yourselves for that? How do you prepare for the possibility of that happening?
I guess we go back to the data aspect again. Like, we've kind of built everything from the ground up on the concept of getting a lot of data and crunching a lot of data all the time. So I mean, all of our fraud prevention stuff is algorithmic right now. And I mean, I would be lying if I claimed that we didn't have issues. I mean, we had massive issues with it for a couple of weeks, but as we got more data, we got better at automatically kind of like just recognizing people who are probably up to no good. And so, and I mean, because once you get enough of those guys, like, you kind of start to see the patterns, and they're actually pretty. In hindsight, it's always like, oh yeah, of course, we just do it like that. But I think that's going to be another one of those things where like every person who sells something on the internet like will need to keep kind of iterating on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this. Like, there was just an article on like these, hoverboards, these weird things, and like, so basically, like, someone was selling those through Stripe, which is this payment service provider, and I think they had like a 90-some% fraud rate, which is like, oh yeah, you just sold $2 million worth of hoverboards. By the way, you'll need to pay back about $2 million.
Yeah.
But also you'll also ship the hoverboards already. Like, oh shit.
Yeah. But on the plus side, though, they'll explode when they get there. So
probably, yeah, fair enough. They had it coming.
But it sounds like the Playfield platform. You said like it looks like a storefront right now, and it kind of is. It kind of is a storefront to a certain extent. But you said you wanted to sort of integrate and sort of plug into other things. Is ultimately the goal to be a thing that works kind of hand in hand with storefronts like Steam?
I think kind of the way we look at it is more that we want to be kind of a hub. So there's a couple of things. Like, as a developer, like, I need to, my stuff needs to be out there on every single social network. I need to post to Reddit and Twitter and Twitch and YouTube and everything. Like, I just have to be doing that. But then for me as a gamer, that kind of sucks because I can't keep up with all of this. So basically, like, our idea is that we're just going to hook into all these platforms and then pull in the kind of really interesting bits about each and every game. So, then when we do that, and then when we know what your interests are, then we can hopefully give you this kind of curated view of like, hey, here's the cool stuff that's happening in gaming today for you. Mm-hmm. But again, we're again talking, massive amounts of data and a lot of kind of, tweaking the algorithms to make that feel right. So, this obviously is a long-term project, but we're launching the new feed, I think, early next week, and that's hopefully going to improve that a lot. So hopefully it's going to be a nice experience to go to Playfield and see like, oh hey, here's some random bits about indie games you care about that you would have missed otherwise. And that's already something. It's a nice thing.
Yeah. You've mentioned a couple times that you're in beta and this is a long-term project. When's the goal, at least, to be out of beta? Obviously, things change.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at gaming, it's when's the game done today? I mean, I mean, because like, even if it hasn't been released, you might still have people playing it for 2 years at that point. I mean, Nuclear Throne was in early access for 2 years, I think,
yeah,
or more. And then again, like even after a game has been shipped, people keep working on it full time for years. So I mean, for us, like, I guess we're gonna remove the beta batch maybe in March. But I mean that.
So like about a year after launch, right?
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't really mean much because obviously we're gonna just keep implementing more stuff after that.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a way of saying that, like, yeah, like, we really think the kind of fundamentals are there and they work in a way intended. Like, hey, here's what we were pitching a year ago. Like, look at it now. But cool. That's that.
Yeah, very cool.
So before I move on to our sponsorship and newsy bits and things like that, Brian, like I said, I was dominating the conversation. Is there anything else you want to ask?
So I just think this is a really interesting idea to try to make this a more kind of community-focused thing. And I wish you the best of luck with it for sure. Unfortunately, I'm not as well versed in a lot of like the digital distribution channels and that sort of thing as I should be. But I guess if you had to sum it up in like one sentence, somebody who is looking for a place to get their games, maybe they don't like Steam so much, or maybe
the elevator pitch for your play.
Yeah, the elevator pitch. What's your pitch? Pitch me, pitch everybody. Why go to Playfield over anybody else?
Right. Well, I mean, our hope is that we'll know what's the next game you're gonna love. Like that was kind of the original idea. Like we will tell you, like, if we're successful, then we can tell, like, what, like, here's this game. We know you haven't heard about it before, but trust us, play it for 15 minutes and you'll love it. Like, and I think like, that's the thing. I mean, you can go to Steam and you will always find the games that you kind of already knew that would be decent. But we are really trying to kind of like look at other signals so we can figure out, okay, here's the thing that you would have never heard about otherwise, but that you're just gonna go crazy over. that's kind of the pitch. That's what we're trying to get to eventually.
Yeah, my problem on Steam with especially with indie games, whenever I go on the Steam storefront, I see the Fallout 4 and the Just Cause, blah blah blah. But whenever I see the big games that I've heard of, and then I see a ton of smaller games that I haven't heard of, but with no hierarchy. Like there's no sense of this one is pushed to the top of the list for this reason or anything like that. It's just like this one's on sale. It's $3. And I'm like, okay, well, but what is it? Like, why should I care?
Yeah.
There's not really like anything telling me what these games are or why you're pushing them. So it's good that somebody out there is trying to solve that problem.
And I like too the idea of having this not so much like the problem I have with Steam right now is it is dominated by curators, right? I don't care what a lot of these people have to do to recommend. Like, a lot of these people who are recommending games are not people I really whose opinions matter all that much to me, because we don't have much in common. But do something like this, where it is much more tailored and focused to me by using all this other data, I think is much more valuable.
Yeah, and I mean, because that's kind of the idea. Like, if we can see that, like, who are the people you actually follow on Twitter? Who are your friends on Facebook? Like, who do you subscribe to on Twitch? Like, that tells us a lot about like whose opinions do you care about, and I mean I think that's a pretty healthy starting point for recommendations already.
And that's I mean that's smart because that's how people already do recommendations. Like we opened the discussion the "What have you been playing" segment by Brian saying I started playing Pokemon Picross because you recommended it. And Brian and I, we've been friends for years. We constantly play games because we recommend them to each other. So,
absolutely, yeah.
If there was just some platform that said like, "Hey, Brian spent hours in this game and hasn't told you about it yet," or other Brians, other people that I know that aren't necessarily.
I would be ashamed if you could see the games I've spent hours on, because it's never anything good. It's always like, hey, here's this free-to-play mobile game that I've spent hours on for no good reason. Like, I don't think that's going to help you at all.
He's had it running in the background while he's graded papers, and he taps it once in a while.
You should get the Apple Watch, I feel like that kind of games, just keep doing that.
If that thing can run a Galaxy of Heroes, I'll do it. Like,
Brian loves games that you don't actually have to play, as we've established.
I'm busy, okay? I don't have that much time, so if the game can play itself, it's that much more appealing to me. Yeah.
You still need that sense of achievement, so that's it.
Yeah. He gets it.
I feel like I'm doing something. So let's move on to our newsy bits, but first, a word from our sponsorship.
Yes, that's right. The Chattycast is sponsored by Audible.com. They are offering you, our listeners, a free audiobook download as well as a free 30-day trial to check out their service. Tons of great books on games, tech, lots of other topics to choose from. Every week, we like to remind you of this fact. We like to let you know that they're out there. And if you want to check out over 150,000 titles, okay, that's how many, you got 150,000 titles. That's 150K, okay? That's like 150 more times K than like anybody else. You can check them out with your free audiobook download. Just visit audibletrial.com/chattycast. Again, that's audibletrial.com/chattycast. Thanks, Audible.
This is not a recommendation because I'm barely into the book, but I'm betting I'm going to like it. I just started listening to Yes Please by Amy Poehler, her book, and it's narrated by her, and she has as is usually the case with like comedy books, she has like comedian friends doing guest bits that aren't actually in the book, but they're in the audiobook. So I'm really looking forward to diving into more of that.
Cool.
So yeah, that's one of those books you can get on Audible.
Yep,
so
there you go. There's a recommendation for the week.
Let's move into
social recommendation. Yes, that's what I mean.
There you go. If only there was a website that would let people know what audiobooks was. So newsy bits. The first newsy bit we're gonna tackle this week. The big news of the week, I think, and also something that we've talked about multiple times before, as this story has developed over the course of months. Kojima Productions is now Kojima left Kojima Productions under Konami and founded Kojima Productions itself, like a new thing, and he announced, sporting an awesome new beard, he announced a business deal with Sony, and without Konami, obviously, because Konami is not a video game company anymore. So they finally freed him from his cell after the Game Awards controversy.
He came back from vacation, Steve. He came back from
vacation. We talked about the big Game Awards controversy with him not being allowed to go But this seems like it followed pretty closely after that. This whole Sony deal. It must have been in the works and things like that at the time. He appeared in a video with Andrew House. So immediate impressions. Yuri, we'll go with you. Kojima finally striking out on his own away from Konami.
Yeah,
after much drama this year, I should say.
You could just, I bet the guys at Sony are just like wrapping their pants, like, okay, like, please stay on budget, please, like, be worth this, and I don't know, and I was trying to like read his face on that video because like he looks like he's kind of bored, he's just sitting. But I guess maybe that's just how it is. Like, I have no idea what's going to come up.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the thing about Kojima projects is that they have these massive budgets, and there were always those sort of reports of the reason that the possible reason that he and Konami had a falling out was that he just goes with these huge budgets with these massively ambitious projects, and I'm wondering if Sony is just like, hey, we're going to set these benchmarks and you have to hit them.
Yeah.
Because we are not going to be just funding you for years and years while you pursue a passion project. Yep. So, Brian, what do you think of this, and what would you like to see out of Kojima now that he's
this is the
no
most
longer making Metal Gear
logical.
games?
He was either going to do something with Sony or he was going to do something with Nintendo, and Sony is really kind of more aligned with the sort of things he wants to do. I thought it was interesting you mentioned that he seemed bored, because I have a feeling that Kojima has wanted to make movies for the longest time. I don't know if he's all that interested in video games anymore, but he's kind of stuck in it. So I don't know. Like I'm interested because I think the guy's got a lot of talent. He needs an editor, like really bad.
He hired a Hollywood actor. He wants to make movies.
Yeah, I mean, he needs someone to rein him in and tell him, like, no, maybe this isn't the best thing. So hopefully he'll get that a little bit more with Sony. But I think that it is Konami's loss that he is no longer there. And I think it's just further kind of hastening that company's... Well, I mean, I'd say they're irrelevant, but they're not really a video game company anymore, so it doesn't really matter. But
yeah. We published editorials on this subject. Of,
yeah.
Like, are they
they're going to do their own thing, and that's fine. But
Konami, do you do video games? I think the thing about Kojima's projects, Kojima is sort of known, sort of the joke of Kojima is, and it's delivered with affection, but the joke is that like he produces these big crazy things, like his plot lines are like fucking insane. So I'm wondering if whatever he makes next, which is not going to be Metal Gear, obviously, it's going to be some other thing. But if he tries to capture that same sense of crazy, or if it's going to be more Metal Gear Solid 5, which was actually like surprisingly like kind of mild in its craziness compared to a lot of the other
more directed and focused in its craziness than
yeah that's a good way of putting it. But it also does the whole meta layer that Kojima sort of loves doing, the whole nuclear arms thing, which I don't think we've talked about on the show, but the idea that disarming your nukes is like a worldwide goal that is not going to happen, and it seems like that's sort of like the political point that he's trying to make. Is like it's this extremely hard thing that everyone kind of has to band together for, and so no one's going to do it. So I kind of wonder if targeting a specific platform like the PlayStation 4, he's always loved toying with hardware and saying, the classic example is I'm blanking on the name, but they're like, oh, you've played Castlevania.
Oh yeah, no. But he also did Boktai, which is a game you had to play outside in the sun.
Yeah, like go outside, nerds.
That's what I wanted to see him do. I want to see him do more weird stuff like that, because I know he's.
And I wonder if targeting the PlayStation 4, presumably he's not targeting the Vita. Let's be honest. Targeting the PlayStation 4. I wonder if he's going to be able to play a lot more with like the hardware specifically.
Well, this sounds like that. Now all the indie game developers will also have to compete with fucking Kojima. It's going to make one game a month. It's all going to be this crazy.
Yeah.
Like, oh god.
So good luck with that. Yeah. So our next newsy bit, Shodan is returning for System Shock 3. They had sort of a tease that System Shock 3 is coming. They formally announced it this week. Sometime in the past week. So I personally, here's a shameful confession. I have not played System Shock. I played BioShock, which everybody was like, well, that is the spiritual successor to System Shock, and the reason people were excited for BioShock was System Shock. But yeah, this announcement got people really excited. Have either of you played System Shock or System Shock 2?
Yeah, I played it, but I mean, I just realized that I was like 10 years old when System Shock came out. So like, obviously, it was mind blowing and everything, but like, you know, I was 10 years old, so everything on the computer was mind blowing and awesome.
Yeah. And the thing as an outsider, like I mentioned, that strikes me about System Shock is that saying Shodan is coming back like means something. You know, like if you said like, hey, there's going to be BioShock 4 and it's going to have Andrew Ryan, people would be like, what? You know, like
well, especially considering what happens in BioShock 1, yeah. Like,
yes,
that's
exactly.
Really
but like, it doesn't have as much of a defined villain. It's more like a defined environment.
Right.
That sort of that series apart. System Shock 3 is very much has a nemesis, and you don't see a lot of video games where there's a nemesis that keeps coming back in a believable way. It's either Dr. Wily, where it's like, okay, God, just leave him in prison, for God's sake. Or it's a flavor of the weak villain that, you know, someone new comes, or it's an army like Gears of War where you're just facing off against different soldiers in an army. But like having a really definable villain is kind of rare for modern games.
True.
I saw people who are really, really excited about this. So I mean, like there are people saying like Shodan coming back was bigger than Star Wars to them, which I'm like, great.
That sounds insane to me, but okay, whatever. I'm not going to begrudge people for their interest.
Everybody, yeah, people always want to be like the contrarian and all that.
Yeah, there's bigger news than Star Wars.
Yeah, let's tone it down a notch. But yeah, Shodan coming back is pretty big.
So our last final newsy bit here: Electronic Arts is forming the EA competitive gaming division for eSports. Obviously, everybody wants to get into eSports. eSports is the big thing these days. Companies obviously are going to jump on that, and that includes EA.
It's where the real money is made.
Yeah. Merchandising.
Thank you.
But are we getting to a saturation point, you guys?
No.
Where there's so much. It feels like there needs to be some convergence of EA league, not EA leagues, eSports leagues at some point.
It's weird because like I mean we don't have that same problem in professional like meat space sports. I'm not really sure what to call them, right? Non-esports, like
IRL,
non-esports.
Yeah, IRL sports, exactly.
Sports.
Like different leagues for each game. That's kind of the situation we're in now. Like, you know, do there need to be like 3 or 4 League of Legends leagues? Probably not. But I'm assuming the EA league is going to be for EA games, which I see the logic behind that.
Yeah, and it makes sense when I guess the big difference between actual sports and esports is these are games that are owned. They're proprietary. They're owned by a company. Like nobody owns the concept of football, but the NFL sort of owns that league, the professional way of playing football, but nobody owns football itself. Like somebody owns League of Legends, and somebody owns Hearthstone, and somebody owns all these EA games.
Does it really matter though? I mean, you can play all of those games without participating in the actual esports aspect of that.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I just mean like it makes sense that the companies that own them would be like, hey, this is our thing, and esports are huge, so we want to get in on that. You know.
And also too, I mean, it's not like EA is alone in this. Blizzard's got their own thing going. Riot Games has their own thing going. I mean, it actually makes more sense, I think, to have the company running this stuff than anybody else.
Yeah, like I don't begrudge EA for running their own esports stuff. Like I said, like I play Hearthstone like crazy, and the Hearthstone World Championships are something that I actually watch, or at least watch highlights of.
Of course you do.
And that's of course you do. And that's a Blizzard thing. Like Blizzard is hosting that, and kind of they've arranged their structure, at least with Hearthstone and probably with other games that I don't follow as closely. They've arranged their structure so that you can host your own tournament anytime you want, and if you get big enough with hosting your own tournament, you provide points towards their world championship.
Right.
So like that's a smart move. I'm more wondering like when there's multiple leagues for the same game. Like as far as I know, there's like a bunch of different leagues for like Blizzard games.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some activity around there. I mean, I'm sure they're going to consolidate, but then again, like esports is still growing so fast that there's not really like not like a massive pressure for them to merge yet. Yeah. I think it's when it starts to slow down that's going to happen.
Maybe I need to think of it more like wrestling, where like there's the WW. Hold on, I'm going to mess this up.
All right.
I'm not a wrestling fan. But there's the big leagues.
Or this or what? Like,
there's a couple of big leagues, but as far as I understand, there's like a billion smaller leagues.
Okay,
And
so
that doesn't like interrupt it or anything.
well, your analogy is basically there is only really the one major league. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And even that has its own minor league, but then there are a bunch of independent leagues out there. And there's also a couple other companies that are kind of in the middle, but there's like one big one and a bunch of smaller ones, and I don't think that's quite the same thing.
Okay, that was a bad analogy then. I try.
But it's closer. It's closer than anything else. Like that's the thing. It's like it's still close.
Yeah, yeah. But it's esports. It's a weird burgeoning market. So who knows?
Yeah. But so, it kind of almost feels natural that there should be like a some kind of an open source consortium that would actually be in control of the game. That would be kind of non-profit, and then all the different leagues could use that. But because it is kind of funny that you have this, if you have a company that actually runs the league and they are in control of the the thing you use to play in the league, and we as the players or the participants, we don't actually know what's happening in the source code or anything like that. That's that's kind of a shady situation almost.
Yeah, it is weird, and
something might happen there.
To bring it back to Hearthstone, because I always do, It's weird the way that they have had a tendency, I think a couple of years in a row, to make really large game changes like right before the World Championships, and I half wonder if that's on purpose to like test the competitors.
Yeah.
To be okay, come up with a new deck type. Like
let's see how good you really are.
Yeah. So
or maybe it's like, hey, we're gonna give you guys the access to the beta and no one else. So you better win. Well, I mean, who knows?
So let's move on to our final segment, Beat the Doc, the part of the show which I abuse my hosting powers by pitting my good buddy Brian against someone in a pointless game. As always, our guest is going to go first. In honor of today's guest, the CEO of Shark Punch, this week's game is all about sharks. I'm going to ask a question about a game that features sharks in some way.
Wow.
And you tell me what game it is. I originally thought either sharks or punching, but I was like, punching is like every game. Yuri, you can go first. What game kept you corralled into a playable area by making the surrounding waters infested with cyber sharks?
Cyber sharks. Feels like I should know this one.
Yeah, that's the real identifier right there, cyber sharks.
I don't fucking know. Cyber sharks.
That was Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Of course it was. Yeah.
The sci-fi weird spin-off.
I knew that.
I feel like you might get this one. What game let you launch land sharks at hapless enemies? Land sharks. I don't know why these questions are always so impossible. I'm terrible at making games.
I can't think of one.
Right. That was Armed and Dangerous or Saints Row the Third. There were two good answers.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So
I should have gotten that one, but I don't remember that gun.
Saints Row. I was like, oh man, Brian's gonna do this one. So all right, which game let you play as one of the most famous sharks ever, Yuri?
One of the most famous sharks ever.
Yes.
I hope there was a Jaws the game because it has to be Jaws, right?
It was Jaws. It was actually called Jaws Unleashed.
Okay, cool.
Which is a weird name because I don't think Jaws was ever put on a leash.
Yeah, I mean it's a shark. Like I've never seen a shark on a leash. Would be kind of cool.
What game based on a movie lets you watch an iconic crime boss get eaten by sharks?
Iconic. Is it? The first thought I have is The Punisher, but I'm sure that's not it.
No.
You gonna tell me, or are you just gonna?
Oh, okay. I thought you were still thinking it through because you were like,
oh,
Punisher, but no, because I didn't think that was a guess. Okay, it was Scarface. The World Is Yours.
Oh, okay.
If you swim out to the sea as Tony Montana, you get eaten by sharks.
All right.
Cool.
The premise of that game, as far as I understand, was already like he didn't die in the ending, and it keeps going.
And he got eaten by sharks. So yeah,
and then he gets eaten by sharks.
That's what
could be the story you tell.
Absolutely.
With the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Did he wake up in jail and all that, like as like most video games that like, oh, you're in jail, haha, you're not dead. Escape
in the
jail.
George Lucas special edition of Scarface, like what I really always intended for this ending was for him to get eaten by sharks.
I mean, like maybe it's possible all the cocaine kept his heart beating. I don't know.
Yeah, as we know, cocaine does imbue you with superpowers. Everybody do cocaine.
I cannot endorse that. I cannot endorse that. Good conscience.
I was nervous about drinking beer during this, but apparently
yeah,
it's all right.
You're fine.
All right, so you're already winning with, I guess I'd call that a half point for Jaws Unleashed, but with this one you can seal it up. This is the last question. One of the most infamous FMV games of all time.
Oh.
With sharks. Can't remember
with
anything.
Sharks.
Brian looks like he knows this. So
Brian, I think Brian knows this. We can give it to him for a.
You earn your point. Yeah.
No. You'll win, but I know the answer to this.
Yeah, you're the official winner. But Brian, what is the most?
The game is called. I have very fond. I guess fond isn't the right word, but I remember playing this as a kid. Sewer Shark.
Sewer Shark.
Sewer
Shark.
Yes.
And we already got a comment from the chat. From the chatty degenerate says, "Oh my God, Brian, how did you forget the shark gun in Saints Row 3?"
It's slept since then. I don't know. Like
your shame.
I'm still recovering. Okay, that's my excuse. I blame everything on the surgery.
Yeah,
so.
It's the meds.
Mm-hmm. I'm not on any meds, but I'm just gonna blame it on the surgery. So.
You
didn't have to tell people that you weren't on meds. You could have been like, yeah. So, all right. That is the show. Yuri, thank you very much for being on the show. You want to give people the actual address of Playfield? We name dropped it a lot, but we didn't tell people where.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm trying to actually find the Hangouts window. There we go, so I can see you guys. Yeah, playfield.io. Check it out. Send me abusive emails. JIRI@playfield.io.
You are very open with soliciting feedback, so I feel like we should send that message to people. Like
it would, it's kind of dumb to release something like this and put a big beta badge next to the name if you weren't looking for feedback. So really I'm very comfortable with abusive feedback. So jiri@sharkpunch.com. Just send it my way, but check out the site first.
Yeah, and being the internet, abusive feedback is in heavy supply. Do you have any other and you want to plug any of your games before we let you go?
Any of my games, or any of the games from Playfield, or?
Well, any of Shark Punch's games.
I don't know if we have sharks in our game.
You should make a game that's just called Shark Punch.
Yeah. It writes itself.
So there actually is a game called Shark Punch. It's a VR game.
Mm.
Oh wow!
And it was launched the same week that we announced our company, which was kind of resulted in a lot of confused PR people, media trying to figure out. No, but I mean,
I read that punching a shark is not actually a good way to get out of that situation. If you're ever confronted by a shark, do not punch it in the nose.
I don't know. I punched a sea lion once and it did work. I mean,
there's a story behind that.
Let's speed up for beer someday, and I'll tell you the rest of it. It's not animal abuse. It was biting me, so it was kind of more like self-defense.
Oh, okay.
It was self-defense.
Self-defense.
I don't go out to seek sea lions to punch. I mean.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, people should check out Playfield. We're doing some pretty embarrassingly good deals right now, which kind of sucks because obviously it would be nice if people paid the full price for every game they buy, but we have some pretty cool indie games, and hopefully people can find something they enjoy.
So Brian, as usual, I'm going to give you a chance to plug any of your professory work. Do you have any books, articles?
A lot of stuff I'm working on. Nothing's coming. I got a textbook coming out, but nobody wants that. So, I mean, this is not the audience for the textbook. But
well, they might be. They might be avid learners.
Disciplines. Look it up. I don't know. Buy it. I don't care. Yeah. I'll sign it. Mail it to me. I'll sign it.
We Check News for my own quick plugs. We are hard at work at our Game of the Year stuff. That's going to be going up the week after Christmas when we are all enjoying our time off. We're just going to have those going up and revealing our Game of the Year countdown, along with some other sort of retrospective end of the year things. So we're all working on that now. So look forward to that soon. And next week we're going to have some sort of holiday-themed show before we get into the Game of the Year stuff. So that'll be fun, Christmassy. So that is the show. Thank you, Yuri, for coming on and talking to us about Indie Discovery and Playfield.
Yep,
review us on iTunes if you have not already. Helps other people find the show. And so, the end. I'm Steve Watts.
I'm Brian Carr.
And we will see you on Chatty.